and welcome to the Hit Like a Girl podcast. I love that we get to share our platform with members of our health IT community. As we approach the annual HIMSS conference, we'll be sharing bonus episodes with Grace Vinton as a guest host, interviewing lady bosses in her network to share their expertise and advice. So this is Joy, passing the mic to Grace. Take it away.
This is High Tea with Grace, where we spill the tea on HIT. I'm excited today to welcome Juli Heitman. She's an experienced registered nurse and quality and data services director at Motient. Juli, thanks for being with us today.
Oh, it's so great to be here. Thank you so much. Can't wait to get started.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your career path from registered nurse to informaticist. How did you end up doing what you're doing now at Motient?
Well, I would say my career started like any nurse coming out of school. I was in a med-surg floor, and then I really got that love of critical care and wanted to be able to take care of patients really in the critical needs, and worked in the ICUs, adult care ICUs. And what I really picked up quickly was just whatever opportunity is in front of you, take it. Whatever patient is in front of you, take it. Even though you may not be the most comfortable or most experienced about it, it is going to, again, make you more prepared for the next thing. And that was really true as far as the bedside went. And then I kind of transferred. I love the bedside so much and the critical care. I wanted, again, to teach it and share my collective knowledge from all the great mentors I've had. So I went back to school, got my master's in nursing and in education, and then went to the nursing schools for a little bit to teach, but the hospital just kept pulling me back. Like I was pulled to it because I just love patients, patient care, and seeing how we can work together as a team. And then I kind of got the quality bug about 5 years ago. I was just in an place where I had an opportunity to kind of find out more about how we're taking care of these stroke patients or sepsis patients in our hospital. And that really kind of led me to that quality mind, process improvement. And so, again, just taking those opportunities, making the best out of them, learning, not afraid to fail. And get right back up.
Yes, that's amazing. So when you move into this healthcare quality, there's a program then that you take that it's a master's or?
Right. Well, I knew that going into quality, that is something that is not necessarily taught in nursing school or even as a bedside nurse. Quality means a lot of different things to different people. But what really is the push for me was I want to know the foundation of it so that I can not only apply it to my work, but then bring in the other staff nurses and directors to understand this is what we want to do. And value-based care, again, has pushed that so much further along that everything we do is, monitored and there's a metric to it and there's reimbursement tied to it. But now it's really trying to get the staff to understand it's more than just that money reimbursement. It's to make that patient outcome the best it can be.
Yeah, it's truly the best thing for patient safety and quality of healthcare to have that financial incentive now also tied into just the moral incentive of keeping people alive and doing your job right. And it's fantastic.
It is. I mean, I think it's instead of volume-based, it's value-based. And that it has meant, I think, a world to our system. And it's, kind of uncovered it's made us look at some of the not so great parts of medical care, that how can we look at that and again, put solutions to that. And then with my master's, it's a postmaster's degree from the George Washington University, I was so I want to be challenged by the best and I want to see if I can handle it. And I'm hoping to go back and either get, finish the master's or again, maybe even do a doctorate of nursing program there. But it was just amazing experience. And
it's really interesting how you're kind of saying that data quality is like a mirror for healthcare. It's literally forcing them to look themselves in the mirror and what are we doing right? What do we need to do better to close care gaps?
It's so true. And that mirror is sometimes hard to look at. It is hard. And some people don't want to look in the mirror. And I always feel like sometimes the quality department gets a bad rap because we're always maybe shaking our finger or, shaking our heads. And I've never have felt that way when I've looked at a process or looked at a patient situation and bringing it forward. It's like, tell me your perspective. What was going on at this time, in your head, or what were you thinking? And bringing everyone to the table and understanding the bigger picture and then finding those aha moments, those pauses where like, okay, maybe X, Y, and we should have done this, or I should have communicated this better. Then you take that life experience and you do better for the next patient. And that's what really I see quality as.
Yeah. Truly. And you see that impact too of quality data, I'm sure. So what were some of your biggest challenges then as a practicing nurse? I'm sure maybe some of them had to do with quality. I'm not sure, but yeah, just interested to learn, what challenges you were facing in that nurse position.
So I feel like as a nurse, time was something that was always, and I never had enough time to spend with my patient. Never, there's just so many, I think things that happen during the shift that you're, okay, I can do a little bit of this, and it's okay if I kind of, maybe not 100% there. But when you're in front of your patient and taking care of them, it's just, you don't have enough time to do that. Yeah. And I think that was one of the challenges. It continues to be one of the challenges that I see at the bedside. And then nurses get, again, they went into nursing to care for people. We really are big-hearted people, and we want to care. Typically, that was our motivation, not so much any like financial. And so when we can't do that to our best, it really starts to affect us.
Yeah.
So
it will lead to burnout, I'm sure, because you're saying, this is what I need to do. I need time to do my job well. I don't have a lot of time, so I need to have the best resources at hand, or else. And so do you feel like this new role you're in is helping these nurses, your friends, your colleagues get more time?
Right, I do. And I think that's what was such an easy jump for me to go from the hospital setting and being that, even though I was in quality, I was wearing scrubs and I was at the bedside, because that's just how I best learned. But jumping then over into Motient, it was like, we are working on a product that one is going to take away, but we're going to take that administrative work off of these nurses, especially during times of, surges like COVID, or when beds are just short. That happens, yearly during this kind of time of year when flu and pneumonia spike up. But it was an opportunity for me to still support nursing, and yet give them time back. And maybe it's time back for a break, or it's a time back to be with their patients, but we're taking that on. And then from that, again, they can feel comfortable that they have someone working for them. Yeah. Nurses are taught to delegate out. This is just another, hey, delegate this out, and we're going to take care of you. We're going to take care of your patient, and do what's best for them. And again, if that's making 30, 40, 50 calls to try to find a bed placement, or to try to find, transport, that's what we're going to do.
So tell me a little bit more about, you're kind of talking quite a bit about these patient transfer needs that was kind of resting on the nurse before, and now, maybe is it changing? How is this affecting our frontline heroes? These patient transfer needs, what are the needs when it comes to patient transfers? And are they always emergency? Or are they sometimes just, post-acute care or other things? What should we know about that?
Sure. So inter-hospital transfers is something that has gone on for years, and it's been one of those that's been really understudied, really until probably the last couple of years. And I'm starting to see more literature about, what are some best practices about that. Inter-hospital transfers are either, again, someone comes into the hospital, into the ER, and they don't have the resources there in our hospital to care for that patient. Wow. So that patient needs to go ahead and just transfer to a higher level of care. Or you are in a hospital inpatient, and let's say, again, you become more critical, and again, you source the resources around you, you need a higher level of care. So many of those are unplanned. It's not like we, gosh, I'm going to get sicker on 2 p.m. the next day, so have EMS available for me. So it's very unplanned. And so it's taking, it takes nurses, again, you kind of have to stop in your routine of what you're typically used to. And there's lots of paperwork. There's EMTALA. It's a law, again. So we have to have very specific communication between doctor and doctor, nurse to nurse. So a lot of very important check marks, but yet keeping this patient who's potentially becoming more critically ill safe during this transfer process. And sometimes when transfers get delayed, again, that's the sending hospitals like, hey, where's my patient at?
Oh my goodness.
Or the receiving hospital.
Yes,
Where's my patient?
hospital.
And then sending patient, maybe it's like, we had to do X, Y, and Z to get them more stable. And then EMS is like, hey, we're just waiting for the patient. So there's just a lot going on, which it seems like maybe during those times. And I would say majority of the time it seems like to go pretty smoothly, but there are times, more and more when we have these just critical patients that we really need to, again, pay attention to where they're at in their illness trajectory and how they're going to progress, or how they're going to be on the road when they're transferring to that receiving hospital.
Yes. And I'm sure like interoperability and just the ability to get that information quickly to whatever receiving hospital is very important. Do you find that, data quality and interoperability are a help or a hindrance?
Well, I think my end answer always will be help, because I think data and interoperability is just something that we have to embrace and work through. Now, it's how is the data presented to you? If it's a bunch of numbers and Excel sheets, it's hard to work through. And again, as a nurse or a nurse leader, we weren't taught those specific things, but with Motient, we not only take the workload off of the nurse, so we're going to help them find the bed or find EMS, but then we take all that data that they put in about the transfer and then aggregate it out so they can really understand their inter-hospital transfers, where they're going, what patients are leaving, are they going by air, are they going by ground, and really talk about sustainability for especially rural healthcare. Just being able to understand the resources that they're using, the resources that aren't there. That really is something the data from Motient has kind of just pulls all that together for a individual hospital to look at.
Yeah, very interesting. And do you feel like, so how the data is viewed is very important in addition to the quality of the data that's viewed?
Yes. So, we look at the data, sharing it with, you kind of need to find a champion who really likes the data. And sometimes that's in your quality department. Other times, a lot of patients who are transferred are coming out of the emergency department. So ED directors there are very oh gosh, very engaged into what data is in front of them, and really start to look at that from, how long does it take to get, like a stroke patient out of the ER, or a person with a heart attack, and understanding, are we moving this quickly enough? And it's the data that it's updated every 2 hours. It's just such a great snapshot and a pulse to it that they can look at that. And then again, use it for their own internal metrics, improve patient care.
Yeah, truly. What do you see as the future of health IT, specifically for nursing and data quality? How is tech going to play a role here in really improving outcomes, patient outcomes, and closing care gaps for at-risk patients?
Yes. In my own personal opinion, when I jumped from hospital setting to now this tech and software, I was just so blown away by how maybe archaic some of the tools are that we're using in the hospital setting. And why? Because we've always done it that way.
Yeah.
And so obviously there's financial pieces involved too, but still, we use a fax machine, and can we get away from the fax machine to again make more processes more efficient? I mean, that's just one example. Jumping into Motient, it's just like a whole new world of what can be what nurses can have at their fingertips. I feel like Motient Mission Control is very lightweight software. We can just, it's web-based, and it takes no time to get us to get the nurse up and running versus like an EHR implementation or some of the heavier stuff. And there's technologies like these out there that again just need to be embraced. Yeah. And really reviewed. And I feel like I read an article the other day, and I really it made me happy to see IT is no longer your computer resource. Like we're all familiar with computers now. We can at least, troubleshoot. Now it's getting to very like specifics. Like I'm going to again have an IT person that is just over maybe the emergency department or the ICU, and they understand all the uniqueness of that, and then can bring it to the bigger group to say, these are the pain points, let's solve them. And that was really encouraging to me. IT's departments I've worked with over the years have been amazing, but I feel like this is how they're progressing in that career in informatics. It's just bringing this technology to the bedside.
Wow. And do you think it'll be straight to your phone too at some point, in addition to the...
I do. Yes. I think it's just a matter of time. Technology, it's a wonderful thing. I feel like nurses, even in the smaller hospitals I've been around, I mean, everyone's using a smartphone to communicate. It's not their personal one necessarily, but it's hospital provided, and there's security on that. So, it's going to happen.
So the Hit Like a Girl podcast loves to really get to know what drives women in healthcare. And I'm interested to hear, a little bit about the work that you've been most proud of in your career so far.
Oh, gosh. I feel what, again, puts a smile on my face and kind of the gleam in my eye is when we take a project, let's just say stroke care. And we see that maybe we're not where we need to be from a state or national benchmark. And then really involving the whole healthcare team that touches that patient. So is it, again, EMS, it's hospital, it's radiology, it's, again, receiving hospitals, it's neurologists there that are like, hey, this is what you can do. And we all come together and we learn from each other, and we put together, again, processes to help that patient. Because we know stroke, again, can be very devastating, not only from mortality, but again, morbidity, patients not being able to return back to their home. So it's just a devastating thing to have happen. So putting that together and then having that stroke patient come in and seeing everyone like work like clockwork. I mean, I get goosebumps right now. I mean, it's just amazing. Egos are nowhere to be found. We're all centered and focused.
I know it's funny because you always hear of the like care circle, this is the care circle or this is the care triangle, but it's almost like the care spider web because of how much everybody, it's all intricately intertwined and working together perfectly to make sure that it's holding the best it can and holding that patient. It's really neat.
It is. Yeah, no, I never looked at it that, but definitely a spider web. I mean, from a sending hospital perspective, we're, sending a patient sometimes an hour, 2 hours, 4 hours away.
Wow.
So we need to have that relationship with that facility or with that neurologist. So not only, so they can give us feedback. So it doesn't, like, hey, great job, but here's what we can do different next time. And so it feels defensive or anything, but that's what I think I'm most proud in projects. And even something like this, in our software, we see missions come up, and I know behind those missions is a nurse, is a family, is a patient. And then we're bringing people together. They're part of that web, if you will. They're mission control operators are making those phone calls to, again, try to help, and everyone's working together for the good. So not always do we get the best result that we want, but we want to bring that equity out to, again, especially rural areas, and try to close that disparity gap between rural and urban hospitals.
I just saw a Commonwealth report talking about equity, and obviously it didn't come out so great. And it really inspires me when people like innovators like you and others in the company you're working with and the partners that you're working with and the customers you're working with are actually really trying hard to improve that equity. Do you find that there is a huge disparity in rural areas versus others?
Yes, unfortunately. I feel like I'm in Kansas, so that's kind of where I'm out of. I feel like I know the landscape well, and there is disparities, and it's so hard to fathom that in this day and age that if someone has a heart attack in rural Kansas, they may not get to help before they die, where, they're maybe 2 hours away from healthcare. So I just feel like that's what we're giving patients all, like especially during this COVID, all the chance, we're working full time for you 24/7 to get beds and resources to you, to the patient. And so I do feel like it brings equity to the rural areas. There's a lot of work going around with, again, getting internet out into rural areas. There's been some huge funding from the federal government, which is amazing just to get that out there. And so telehealth and those types of, preventative or population health can continue to, again, become more equitable in rural areas. And just being around, I know Kansas is not the only rural area. I lived in other rural areas, and we see the same kind of statistics coming from there. If you're on the West Coast, East Coast, Midwest. So I think it's very applicable to other states and what we can bring value to the rural areas.
Very interesting. So on a personal note,
yes,
obviously been through so much, we've been a nurse on the front lines. You're now, kind of transitioned into informatics. What are some things that you do to help overcome challenges in your life? Just on a very personal note, for some of the women in HIT that are, facing some hard times or challenging times, what are things that you do to help overcome some of those challenges?
Oh, yes. Great question. And I feel like for me, really having a few very solid colleagues, friends, and they're going to be nurse friends, not going to lie. That's who we tend to
stick together. You guys stick together.
Yes, we stick together.
Sisters, brothers, yes.
Yeah. But just very strong women in healthcare, and just being able to rely on them and to be vulnerable with them, and to be able to cry and cuss and, and just talk about what really is some of the challenges. And once you start to lay those out, I think with a group, again, of women that are on the same page with you, we start to offer each other solutions, or again, options to think about that, in our own little heads, we just didn't think about. And it gives us a chance to not only vent, but maybe be productive and take that with us, take their strength. And we go to work the next day, like, okay, this is what we're gonna do.
I love that concept of borrowed strength. And it seems to me like when you're on the front lines and you're going through a hard time and you're trying to overcome challenges, sometimes you need to borrow that strength. And then you are open to then lending that strength when somebody else needs it. And it's nice to have that community.
It is. And I think it's so it's incredibly important for women in healthcare to have that, no matter where, if you're at the bedside or again, to informatics or wherever, just to be able to have that is quite special. And again, it's something that I need in my life. So to be successful.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that now that you've transitioned into informatics, that your new team and your new colleagues are kind of forming a new alliance of sorts? You still have your old, nursing friends, but you're still involved both ways. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Definitely have. I mean, they're just as curious too of what, what we're doing and what's next and what's coming up. And right, I work with our company's small, and our product team, is mainly male, and they're all, very software oriented, and I'm very patient oriented, but we come together. It's fun to come together and have those differences and just kind of be able to share that. They're there for the patient too. It just may not seem like it because they're in coding,
Yes, exactly. They're all have the same mission, but you all bring a different perspective. And you, having been on a patient's bedside in the ICU, see what you're doing from different eyes, which it fuels their mission side of who they are, whether they know it or not,
It does. And just, I can see them when we interact with customers. And that's probably one of my favorites. I get to meet so many strong nurse leaders.
Yes.
Within my responsibilities is to reach out, and just the dialogue that we've had, and just share some of the loss that we've had during COVID, and then celebrate some of the wins that we got. We got this patient out, and they did wonderful, and so I feel like that's kind of a community of itself. I just can't iterate enough how nursing has grit, and the grit I've seen. And I know it's not only in Kansas, but again, being at that bedside I'm inspired by them every day. So
yeah. Do you have any words of encouragement for the women who are nurses that, you'd like to give, or advice, or, anything that you'd like to say to the community that you feel like just would be beneficial for them to know based on some of your experiences that you had?
Oh gosh, I feel like we need another hour, but I would say one, just again, know how much you're valued, have that self-worth, and continue to, find your joy. And if you're just holding on because you're so burnt out from work, but there's one thing in that job that you love, or one thing that you love, just hold on to it and just keep developing, or keep at that. Let that be your focus. Let that be your light. So many of us, there's so much heavy, dark stuff that we just need to, again, ignore if we can, and just pay attention to what that is, or what you bring to those patients. Again, you're bringing hope to those patients. And I can't say that enough. And in the end, I'm very, just be yourself. And that's
very encouraging and insightful. And I think that, everyone in this community will really appreciate that sentiment to just keep on keeping on. You got this, girl.
I know. Yes. I mean, sometimes there's just not a choice either. You got to keep on keeping on. But if you can find that peace and whatever that is, again, just like I said, let that lead you. And for me, it's led me into Motient. It's led me to a place that I would never, 20 years ago, if you could tell me I would be doing this, I would just kind of shake my head.
So, as a registered nurse, you're like, I'm going to be nursing being a nurse the rest of my life. And now you're an informaticist, and you're like, okay.
All right, here we go. All right. Yeah.
A data quality expert, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And it's just, just take those opportunities and with them. So
I'm sure that's a light at the end of the tunnel for a lot of nurses that are going through what they've been going through the past few years too, that there is one of them that is working on the other end to try to help fix some stuff and give them some more time back, and make things easier for them. And there's someone on their side, on the other side.
It definitely feels like, I think one of the big things in my career is, always been like supportive of staff. And I still feel like this huge, like I'm still in that supportive role, and in this position, and just being able to, again, cheer them along, like, hey, you guys are doing great. Or, and then I get to show them the data, like, oh my gosh, look how busy you were. Look how sick these patients were. Like, please, give yourself a pat on the back for what you've all done. And so, it's been great. I'm just excited to see where Motient goes, where the future takes me. So
that's fantastic. So to finish off this conversation, right, where can our listeners find you online?
Oh gosh. Well, I am on LinkedIn, Juli Heitman, and it's Juli, no E, and then Heitman. I also, you can find me on my email, jheitman@Motient, Motient.io. Those are two places where you can find me.
That's terrific. And before I forget, did you happen to bring any tea with you today?
I did bring some tea with me today.
Oh, I love it. And the sentiment is so you. Can you read it out to us?
Yes, it says, find your joy and let it run your life. And this mug has stuck with me. And when I'm not feeling so joyful, I look at that and I'm like, okay, here we go. Patient outcomes. Here we go. I'm coming for you.
Well, thank you for inspiring us with your joy today, Juli. You truly are an inspiration, and I wish you all the best of luck. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much.
And thank you for listening, folks. This has been Hit Like a Girl podcast. Check us out on our website and YouTube page for more great interviews with folks just like Juli. Cheers. Awesome. Let me redo the ending. 1 second. And thank you for joining us, folks. Check out the Hit Like a Girl podcast and YouTube page for more great guests just like Juli. Cheers.